have some policy discourse right now. We're looking at geopolitical tensions in Africa. So when we talk about geopolitical tensions, it's not just happening in the West, it's also happening in Africa. There are areas in Africa where there are tensions ongoing. For instance, in Congo. Report has it that in Congo, communities are gearing up for a war or fleeing safety amid the advance of the M23 rebels who captured the key eastern cities of Goma and Bukavu in recent weeks. That's not a good situation. When we talk about Africa developing, when we talk about free movement all around Africa, we should see progress and not war situations ongoing in parts of Africa. So today we'll be looking at how these tensions can be addressed, what needs to be done to ensure that there is lasting peace all over Africa. And this morning we have Ambassador Williams Wallace, who is the Honorable Consul General Antigua and Barbuda to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He's also the chairman, African International Chamber of Commerce. And recently, he had a new appointment. He's going to tell us about that. It has to do with traditional rulers in Africa. So we're also going to be looking at the role of the traditional institution in ensuring peace in Africa. Ambassador Williams Wallace, it's great to have you on the show today. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Blessing, and happy to see the new logo, front burner. It looks fiery, and that's the kind of news we want. We want to hit news like it is, tell the truth, and be, honest with the truth for us as Africans. Thank you.
Okay, let's look at a fiery happening in some parts of Africa. The DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. You have the M23 rebels there. They're taking captive a particular area in that country, and communities there are scared. Residents there are even fleeing, trying to find safety in other parts of Africa. But there was once peace there. What happened?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, we have to think about what this is all about. And what is this all about? This is really all about resources. And who's driving this? It is also very interesting to note that the people who are driving this are from the outside of the continent. They want our raw materials, and so they're fueling and have been fueling this fire of non-peace among African people. They arm them, they pay them, they provide them with logistics. And I have to say, these are Europeans who have an interest in the raw materials and want it for free. They don't want the Congo or any other African country to benefit from their natural resources under the earth. So what they do is that they find ways to divide and rule, divide and exploit, divide and take away. And the framework and the model, if you look at it, has been repeated time and time and time again. So for peace in Africa and for peace in the DRC Congo, what has to happen is the leadership and those who are in charge of leading the people, and this comes down also to traditional rulers, get together. And it's a simple, very simple formula. These are our resources. This is for us. Let's come together. We are brothers and sisters. Let's unite and let's explore and exploit our resources for our own gain. So for the peace to come, and the M23 rebels and the government troops and the others who are engaged in this very violent against our own people war, is to see the light, see that this is taking our resources and getting us as brothers to kill ourselves for the sake of someone else, which are the Western world. So for peace to come, I know that the new chairman, the AU chairman, Mahmoud Yusuf, he said his first priority as chairperson of the African Union is peace and security, because I think he has recognized, and this is what he won his chairmanship on, he has recognized that for economic development, for free trade, for movement, we have to have peace among ourselves to be able to do what we need to do as Africans and take the continent forward. So for the peace that you are talking about and that we are talking about, let's have our mindset. Let's get the leaders to sit down and talk about our development. Let's talk about our plans. Let's talk about our resources. Let's talk about what we need to do to ensure that we are not exploiting more. We have a young generation now who are very tech savvy, who are very digital savvy, and who understand what is going on. That's why we have the Gen Z rising up on the continent. This 70% of the continent is now young people, and they're not fooled anymore by what has been used. You see what is happening in Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso. The young has taken over and are demonstrating that we don't need to go with begging bowls. Let's unite. This is a good model for the rest of Africa. Here, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger has united. And that unity has shown what they can do. Unity in strength. They have stopped the exploitation of their raw materials and their resources. They have stopped the exploitation of their raw materials, and they have stopped the disunity that was caused and created by France and others. So now we have to use that same model with the DRC and other places.
All right, thank you. And congratulations on the new feather that was added to your cap. See how we can mobilize the traditional rulers in Africa to drive African peace. But this is bewildering. Over 7 decades of independence in Africa, and we are still looking at people coming to divide and rule us. While other parts of the world in trade war, trying to build prosperity for their people, here in Africa, we are killing the men and the women that should champion the building of our continent. What really is wrong with Africa?
I think what is wrong with Africa comes back down to the same question that the continent is asking: leadership. Leadership and, vision and mission. These are 3 key things. What is the leadership prepared to do? Are we going to go back to, for me, myself, and I, and my family and friends, or for the people? That is key. What is my mission? What is my vision? We should be looking at the mission of Africa is to make sure we raise and elevate our people out of poverty, which they should not be in. And what is the mission? The mission is to ensure that we have free schooling, for example, free medical care, for example, food security, things that we have talked about all along. These 3 key things are the things that are going to bring us out of this situation. And let us have free movement among ourselves. Why should we allow people to have imposed borders and dissuade us from meeting and greeting with each other and sharing ideas and moving forward? These are things that we must deal with: leadership and mission and vision for our people. And it must be a united frame. And that is the role of the AU. The AU now, under this new leadership, must take charge of providing good leadership, have plans. And I keep saying, we don't need other people's plans. Let us have an Africa Development Goal Initiative. Every year, we have our own plans and we review them. Is it Health for All this year? And everybody do like what is happening in Burkina Faso, build hospitals, provide good health care? Is it next year we have food security, provide tractors and get the farmers back to the land? Is it education for all, making sure that everybody takes and gets education? We have to have a plan, a master plan, like the Germans had, the Marshall Plan, like the Americans had, a Marshall Plan, like Mao Zedong had, a 50-year plan. We must have our own plans, follow our own plans, and carry them out diligently.
Ambassador, this is the real question that I'm asking. For 7 decades, Africa has been going through this trajectory, the same leadership question. I remember reading from Third World to First World, written by Lee Kuan Yew, his experience with the Commonwealth in the early 1960s, where he actually accounted that he saw that Africans were heading nowhere. And we seem not to have left that road. Why are we not getting the leadership question right?
Well, it is a question of the people having sold their souls for more sense. Are we going to allow and continue to allow people who have no vision, no mission, no plans for their people and for their countries to continue to lead? We have, I would call them political prostitutes. You have people who have no means of work ethic, no means of entrepreneurship that go into the political class, and most of them are thugs. Most of them, they just want to get into power and steal the wealth and resources of the people. So leadership is key. I think we need to have more women and more youths involved in the political leadership process. And that is what we are not getting right. The 70 years has been a lot of neo-colonialists, people who were chosen, and if you did not follow the colonial rule, they will assassinate you. We know that. The history is there. So now we have to change the paradigm. The paradigm has to be, let's get more people like Captain Traore and others who are young, resilient, they are not taking nonsense, they know what the tricks are, and they know what they have to do for their people. Be selfless. They have to think, people first, me after. But right now, we have leadership who are me first, the people can go to hell, not even the people after. So the mindset has to change. The 70 years, we have to unshackle the decolonization route, the neocolonization route. We have to look inwards. Let's go to our own universities. Let us get languages as a standard for Africa. Let us get free trade, really be free trade. Let's get to move among our people. These are things that are serious. We must do it. If we don't do it, we will not get there. The 70 years has to be unshackled.
Okay.
We need to get rid of people who want to be sitting tight for 40, 50, 60 years, falling asleep, you know, and they want to rule a country. No, that has to stop.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. I want to take you back to when you started responding to Blessing's question. You talked about the way Africa is being influenced and how they are used to, divide themselves, and how those who come from the external influence they have, create discord within. So I want to ask, is it that the African man is inferior in its own mind or in its own self? What kind of stories are they being told by foreigners that will make an African man pick up arms against the government of his country, against his people in his own country, to go and cause disharmony and cause discord? What are they told? What kind of brainwashing is done to them? What kind of products they sell to them to make sure that they carry out the bidding of those who are coming to cause trouble in their country?
Yeah, you are so correct and very correct. You've hit the point on the head. And thank you for the congratulations. I'm now the Global Ambassador for the Forum of African Traditional Rulers and Authority. And I take this role very seriously because traditional rulers have a role to play in the future of the continent. We have to go back to what we are, what we have been, and what made us what we were in those days. So what has happened? You are quite correct. They have now used their religion, imposed it on us. They've now used their languages and their culture, imposed it on us. And they have told you that anything related to your tradition is evil, is bad, is wicked. Forget your languages, take our names. Come to Paris, come to London, come to New York. That is where, that's your mother country. Remember, during colonialism and slavery, they told you your mother country. So your father, which is Paris or France, your mother country, England, these were things. So you and your mindset has been dissected that, oh, I must not listen to my traditional rulers anymore. They do voodoo. They into too much spiritualism. And these are the things that made us great men and women of old. So they came and broke that. They knew what they were doing. They had to break us spiritually, they had to break us culturally, and they had to break us and make us not believe in ourselves. We have to go back to that. So you're quite correct. It is what have been done to us. It is we must now be loyal to other people, the invaders, and that's what they are, the invaders who took the land, took trinkets and gave to you and said, this is what you do. Heaven is up there, and you wait and wish for that. Go and continue pray for this and that, right? And that is what will happen to you. Not to employ yourself and your skills and work to make things happen. What are the Chinese doing? From kindergarten, they're giving their kindergarten children skills, how to cook, how to make things, and be proud of work, till the land, look after gardens. We have been told, move away from that. Go to an institution and learn to be a worker. We don't need to be workers. We need to be shareholders of our resources. Okay. And so we need to shake off the shackles of the mindset that we look west rather than internally on the continent.
Now, this war situation in the DRC has the potential to cause regional instability. There are some countries that have been accused of supporting the M23 rebels, particularly Rwanda, even though Rwanda has denied its involvement in that. What do you think could be the consequence of this on the region?
Well, the consequence is that you will have a massive outflow of refugees moving to all the neighboring countries, and in itself creating another cycle of violence and anti-country activities. And this is part of the model of the West, to create chaos. And among the chaos, remember, they found UN trucks and military interventionists carrying raw materials, gold, diamond, etc., in their vehicles and on their aircrafts. So they want to exploit the resources, create the chaos, and the chaos, if it continues, it is an easy find for all the raw materials and all resources that we have. As I say, it comes back down really to the raw materials and resources of the Congo, who has, in some cases, 90% of the needs of Western Ireland. They don't want to pay for it. They don't want to pay us for it. They don't want the people and the country to benefit from it. We have to stop and say, no, like Burkina Faso and Mali and Niger, no, we are now going to take control of our resources. We are going to add value locally, and we will negotiate what we sell our resources for. And more importantly, like Libya did, let the country people benefit. Give them the dividends of those raw materials as shareholders. Because what did Libya do? What Libya did was created shareholders of their country. You got the benefit of the oil. You got the benefit of the gold. They had free schooling, free medical. Even when they got married, they got a free house. That was the outpouring of the shareholding of the benefits of the raw material that was exploited in their country by their leader. And, God continued to bless him wherever he is. He was doing the right thing for Africa. And Africans did not wake up to that. But no, they prefer to go with begging bowls, what you call shake hands, photo opportunities, and we've been to the mother country, we've been to the father country, not thinking about themselves and their own country. It is just imagery. That's it. They're just doing photo ops, but not thinking about what are the real things that they have to address in the country and on the continent. And that's why we need a united plan, a Marshall Plan, which the AU must now think about to adopt.
Okay. Now, there are several dynamics to this ongoing war. Countries within the region have become involved in one way or the other. I mentioned earlier the accusation of Rwanda being behind the M23 rebels. And there are other countries who are either on the side of the Democratic Republic of Congo armed forces fighting on their side, or accused of supporting rebels as well. Could there be other undertones to these alleged supports?
Well, yes, I think there are undertones. The undertones is who is involved, who is leading who's being compromised, and why. So, okay, you have accused, and when I say you, I mean they have accused Rwanda. Rwanda has said they are not involved, but we don't know. We don't know for sure. What are the dynamics? It probably comes back down to also to tribal allegiance and tribal alliances. And that is one of the, problems that we have as Africans. The tribal allegiances, the ethnicities, and people exploit that for their own good. Westerners exploit that for their own good. And that's why I talk about unity. Let's see ourselves as brothers and sisters and not see ourselves as tribalists. So if my tribe is over the border and they are in the DRC Congo, I have naturally to support them and to protect them. Is this not what Russia and Ukraine was about? Russia, apart from NATO, the NATO moving into the space of Russian borders, but the Russians said they were, protecting their kith and kin in certain parts of the Ukraine. So, the human factor of ethnicity and tribalism, and see, my real brother is just my real brother, my ethnic or tribal constituents. If that is pushed, then that is what will probably cause the undertones. The undertones that we're talking about here and exposing is that there is tribalism. There's no doubt about that. And we have got, as traditional rulers and as traditionalists, we have got to say, I am my brother's keeper. Let us trust each other. Because the mistrust was also created. The mistrust was created to exploit us as Africans. So the undertone has to do with protection of interests. Apart from the interests of maybe those who are being driven by ex-colonial powers and Westerners, there is the tribal aspect, there's the ethnic aspect. Those are the undertones that are not spoken about, and we need to address that.
Okay, Ambassador. We also see that the African Union and ECOWAS in West Africa here has not been able to actually do much in terms of mediating conflict within the region. We see NATO heavily involved in the conflict between Russia and the Ukraine, and they are putting resources on the ground to ensure that they are able to deter Russia from advancing. What can we do really to strengthen the AU so that some of these crises, from Sudan to DRC and other places and the hotspots in Africa, that African Union leaders can actually put their feet on the ground and ensure that there is peace in the continent?
This is a very brilliant proposition. I think the AU must now have a standby deployment force. No, and I wouldn't want to say force, because I don't want to say that force should be used continuously. I think more as a separator, let's separate the warring sides. Let's go in and let's start the brokering of peace, because that's the key and important thing. Let us go in as peacekeepers, right? The UN has peacekeepers, right? So we go in as peacekeepers. Let every country send a contingent uh, under the AU, the hem of the AU, as African Union peacekeepers, AU peacekeepers. And let's go in all those hotspots and broker peace. We sit down with the conflicting sides, whatever their grievances, whether it's ethnic, whether it's tribal, whether it's land issue and resources. Let's sit down as brothers under Ubuntu. Isn't that what we did before? Under Ubuntu, the community got together for the good of the community, for the good of us all. Let us employ and apply Ubuntu to these situations on the African continent. And let's have an AU rapid deployment peacekeeping force. And that's important, peacekeeping, and go in and diffuse all the situations. We have to, because nobody's going to do it for us. Instead, anybody else coming in increases and like you have on your front burner, they put fire among us and sit back and laugh and say, look at us, we are killing each other and we are taking away what they have. And we are not the better for it. At the end of the day, we have to sit down and solve our solutions for ourselves. African solutions to African problems. And we have ways that we did it before, how we solved our problems. Africans doing it for themselves, by themselves. And those are the things that I talk about early on in my proposition on Africacy. Africacy has to do with getting back the traditional rulers involved. And I'm happy that the traditional rulers recognized my work to be able to appoint me as their global ambassador, so that they play an integral part in the leadership and development of the country. They should be part of parliament. They are like the lords in the House of Lords. They may sit and then say, okay, gentlemen, this is the problem. Let's go back to our traditional rulers. Let us sit down and parley with them. Let us sit down and discuss these issues. And from all sides, the traditional rulers from Rwanda, the traditional rulers from the DRC, the traditional rulers from South Sudan. Let's get together and let's solve this for ourselves. African solutions to African problems. Africans doing it for themselves, by themselves. We don't need brokering from outside. We have had Ubuntuism. We have had ways of doing things ourselves before. Let's re-employ that and let the African Union play its role significantly now under this new leadership.
Okay. Looking at the invitation that is now being extended to Donald Trump by the government that's supposed to be on the day to come help out, where would this leave Africa in light of the confession of the economic hitman, that we know that the United States of America is sponsoring corporations to actually help pillage continents in the developing world?
Right. The confessions of most of these economic hitmen, I'm happy that it was exposed, because it tells you how the West operates. And they have not hidden it. They have not hidden it. Trump is a businessman. Whether he's a president or not, he has been steeped in business. And notice what he did. Immediately, he saw the opportunity. They are giving me minerals for peace. They can't solve peace for themselves. Okay, I'll go in and take advantage. What did he do? He now promotes his son-in-law, who knows nothing about conflict resolution, to go in and do the business for him. Go and negotiate the deal. Keep it in the family. That's really what it is. It's nothing to do with the American coming to assist the DRC. I mean, the DRC, I must say, is very stupid to think that the Americans will come and give him help to do what? What is he doing? What is Trump doing? Trump is just saying immediately, my son, which is my son-in-law, go in there, take the minerals, and keep it in the Trump family. That's really what it is at the end. And let's be honest. Let's be transparent. It's not even for the benefit of America. It'll be for the benefit of the Trump organization and family. And, you know, if you are given a free pass, why not take it? He will take advantage of it, and you can't blame him. You can't blame him for taking advantage. So let the African Union get in now and stop that nonsense and say, let us get a peacekeeping force in there. Let's sit down with Chikedi. Let's sit down with the rebels. Let's sit down with all the parties in the conflict, and let's get together and solve this ourselves. We have the ability, capability, and the wherewithal to do it. Let's do it.
Thank you very much,
It's not
Ambassador.
rocket science.
Yes, thank you very much, Ambassador. Now, let me play the advocate of the countries and those whom you have termed invaders, because Africa, we've come a long way. Some decades back, Africa, served as the terrain, and there's a particular magazine that emerged from that, The Scramble for Africa by the European powers. That moved, and now again, it's as if the same thing is repeating itself, and the adage says, once bitten, twice shy. Now, we could see that Germany, immediately the French troop left Mali. Germany came in there, and Mr. Olaf Scholz, sent delegation there to go to make some form of bilateral relations, to mend fences there. America too is there, still on the sideline. Egypt was receiving Mr. Sergei Lavrov, who is the diplomatic instrument of Mr. Vladimir Putin. So they are mending fences. So Russia is not completely isolated from the situation. Emmanuel Macron is pallying Cameroon and some other Francophone countries to make sure that they keep their relationship intact. And from all this visit, Anthony Blinken himself went to Democratic Republic of the Congo and some other African countries to make, and documents always emerge from these visits. And it is termed the next blueprint with the relationship with Africa. So for African countries, whenever this visit takes place, what are their own blueprints in relating with the West to make sure that they do not just serve as a platform to be pillaged by the West, but also they are going to be, at the advantageous position to also get from the West what, will touch the bone of the West. So we cannot say, are we going to continue to sing the song that the West is pillaging Africa? Africa should come to a place where they have, the brain enough to also intellectually pose a resistance. Don't you think so?
Well, you are making some very valid and solid points, but I must say it goes back to what we just spoke about before. Where is Africa's blueprint? It is correct, it is missing. Where is Africa's Marshall Plan? You are correct, it is missing. And whose role is it to create that blueprint? We have now the African Union, which must create a framework for engagement. We're not saying that we are isolated from the rest of the world, but we must have our own blueprint, our own Marshall Plan, and then we engage. When we have our own Marshall Plan, we are saying, okay, we will have people who will engage with us, who will do the things we want. For example, local content development, transfer of technology. That should be standard. That should be standard on the African continent. Do not come to exploit. If you want to engage with us, let us have reciprocals. You give us whatever technology you have, if we have it missing, and help us to develop our own. That is good relationship. That is good diplomatic and engagement. Treat us as you treat yourselves in Europe and in the West, as partners in progress, not as, again, exploiters and pillaging. Yes, I have to use the term pillaging because if they see the opportunity that you do not have a Marshall Plan, they will pillage. It is natural. It is natural. You will pillage and you will exploit as long as you can until the people who own the resources wake up. And we have to have our own Marshall Plan. We have to have our own blueprint, and that must be a united. And that's the role of the AU now. The AU now must have their own policy framework of engagement for the African continent. The African continent must now say we have one common currency. We have, of course, we already have a free trade area. And now we have a blueprint for engagement. So before anyone comes and rushes to have bilateral individual, what they do is they select individual countries and do individual contracts and individual negotiations. They should not be doing that. They should be going to the AU to negotiate, and the AU negotiate on behalf of the continent. Protect the individual countries who they know are weak and poor. What is Cameroon and Gabon and they doing? And that is, they are still looking up to France. Oh, please, please stay and make sure you don't break us as well, because that is going to be bad for us. No, they should go to the AU and say what they would like to do and negotiate with the AU, not go and negotiate unilaterally. And that's what I'm saying. Unilaterally, they go to each country, especially the weak. The Germans will fly in, the French will fly in, where they still have support. Every one of them are going to do that. Go to the AU. Isn't it the European Union that negotiates on behalf of the European countries? Yes, they do. And they do that very strongly. Is it not they that created the euro as one single currency so that they can trade and protect themselves when all of their currencies had gone to nothing? Yes, and Africa must do the same. So to say pillaging is still a correct word, because if you see an opportunity to exploit and pillage and plunder, you will do it. And that's the mindset of what I call the invaders, even currently today. So we must have our own blueprint. We must have our own framework. We must have a paradigm shift, and we must make the AU have total responsibility for protecting the individual countries who are weak and who are there to be exploited because they don't have the ability to negotiate on their own.
Ambassador Wallace, let's look at this mindset thing. Is this just on one side, or the invaders wanting to pillage Africa? Are some Africans not also pillaging Africa? Are they not enjoying this situation? Now let's look at the DRC situation. 70% of the global supply of coltan and cobalt, which is used in electronics, comes from DRC mines through illegal mining. If we look around Africa, countries that have mineral resources, there's a lot going on. Illegal mining. Even in Nigeria, we still have the challenge of illegal mining. So has it not become a thing where it's a two-way traffic? As much as we have the invaders, we also have the Africans who are opening the door to invaders and enjoying the situation, leading to mistrust, where the countries do not even trust the AU or even ECOWAS to do any form of negotiation for them. Let's not forget what also happened between ECOWAS and Niger Republic, Mali, and Burkina Faso.
Yes, so you've hit on some very good points there, Blessing. One, the selfish individuals in some of our African countries see this as, let us take what we can for ourselves and do the bidding of people who come and flash money, forgetting that the resource that they have is money for them to be earned and their community. So a lot of communities, like in Ghana, allowing illegal mining, in the DRC, it is just related to the individual communities who are seeing an opportunity for them and they themselves alone, because they're isolated. And yes, the ECOWAS, who was actually being urged and pushed by the outsiders to break up what was now a united front with the Sahel, the AES, which is now created, to stop that from happening, because the interest was coming from the outside. So the individual interest, and of course, some of our leaders, as you know, have been compromised. It is said that a lot of them have hidden secrets, whether they have been stealing, whether they have been compromised in other ways, that the Europeans know, and they're going to tell them, we will expose you or we'll bring you down, or in some instances, like they've done before, they'll be assassinated if they don't do their bidding. So sometimes, these individuals who are, of course, the two-way traffic you talk about, have been compromised. And also the selfish interest. Again, it comes back down to the selfish interest and to some extent also tribalism. So if I'm in my community and I can monopolize my resources with an outsider, let me do it because I'm not being taken care of by my own country. And that's the other side of the story. So if we had a united framework and plan, and you're saying that they don't trust the AU, who has to trust who? If the leaders got together under the AU flagship and have decided on a plan, a 5-year plan, and it is being carried out, then the trust has to be built. And what is happening is that they are not seeing the trust with the ECOWAS and with the AU because whoever has been at the helm of these organizations did not demonstrate to Africans that they could be trusted because there was no Africa plan. There was no Africa plan that the AU and ECOWAS was implementing truly, and that is what has to be done. We need to be vociferous as Pan-Africanists and say, you who are, responsible for protecting us, do our bidding. These are the plans and we must implement and carry them out.
All right, thank you so much, Ambassador Williams Wallace, the Honorable Consul General Antigua and Barbuda to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for being on the front burners today.
Thank you very much, Blessing. Look forward.